we have a kind of main selection of prospects or clients that we end up working with, and they typically fall into a few categories. And kind of what we're trying to address today is, if you could boil it back to the essentials, what are the typical approaches that we take for content, depending on size of the business, level that they're at, with adding content into their kind of like web strategy, if you like. So probably one of the most common ones with the bigger clients is you have a large e-commerce site that is already pulling revenue through organic and other channels, but they are doing it largely just through like a shop area. Their content game is pretty weak. They have like product descriptions that they're probably pulling from the manufacturer pages. They maybe have some category copy, and then it kind of stops there. If you go to guides or the blogs, it might be like top 10 things that we sell this year, and kind of pretty rudimentary level content, if anything, but largely not at all. We get one of those clients in, they are, say, lower to mid market, and they've plateaued and they want to lift off again. What do we do? How do we go from there?
I think, to be fair, the first thing to kind of touch on from what you've said is, like, ultimately you might even get kind of top of market brands who've always been top of market, who face similar issues, who come in, so they might be performing kind of really well, but seeing the rest of the pack getting closer and closer and closer, and it's like warning signs. Wait a minute, we are such a bigger brand than all these others, so what is it that's going wrong? And typically it is content. So I think really for those top of market brands, whether you're still top of market or whether you've kind of dropped down, clearly if you've dropped down, you're getting in touch with us because you need to get back there. But there are quite a number of brands, particularly kind of now, who we've got on the books, who've been quite clever about recognising, wait a minute, those wolves behind us are getting closer.
They've seen the blue tortoise shell kind of flying by, and it's come up on their HUD.
Yeah.
They're about to get smashed.
Exactly. I think in terms of our first approach, really, like, ultimately it centres down to the audiences that you are selling to and that you are trying to target. So those big brands are usually selling a quite wide range of product, and also probably they've got a kind of wide range in terms of pricing too. So the very first step is identifying what are the areas of the site that are going to be affected most by content. So yeah, you might be able to see that shell in the background, but do you know actually who's driving that cart, and do you know what kind of approach they're taking? What we do is we will dig into those players who've seen the real kind of rises, and we recognise these in the reports that we produce kind of yearly. We dig into those and we try to reflect upon the fact of, okay, how are they seeing such a massive increase compared to the market? Normally it is content, and typically it's consideration content is the first one. So I'd say for big players, understanding what the problems and questions that your consumers have around your product sets is the first port of call. Like, go and identify whether it's from records of people ringing up or whether it's from kind of low bounce rates on certain categories. Like, try and understand what is it that these consumers are having to ask and not having that answer presented to them on your website or within the buying experience. That could be anything from you don't provide products at the right price, or you don't push through to kind of cheaper products on different categories, but it could also be very question and answer informational. So say for the kind of beds and mattresses space, people might come in through a mattress search and then be presented with pocket spring, temper, memory foam, but ultimately what does that mean to me? Like, these are just words, I don't really understand. How do I choose between a memory foam and a pocket spring? You ultimately need to be able to answer that question. So we'll identify what those problems are really, and we'll kind of try and map that back to a user journey. So we'll look at category landing pages where there's a high bounce rate, or where there's kind of not much revenue coming in but a lot of sessions, and that's a red flag. Wait a minute, people want these products, or they think they want these products, or they've arrived through a journey to this page, but something is stopping them from making that purchase. Usually that's an answer that they've not received. So we would go and create kind of editorial plans off the back of that, and we would hyper target it to those problems that people have. And then the kind of secondary part of it, once you've identified those problems and mapped them back to areas that you're interested in growing, is building a level of authority within the market on the kind of topics that somewhat sit around your product range. So using the bed and mattress example again, that would be sleep. Like, guaranteed across that website, a bed and mattress website, there is language like, for a great night's sleep, to improve your sleep, here's how you can get a better night's rest. If you don't have content that actually talks about how you can get a better night's rest, are you really an authority? Can you really be able to say that that memory foam mattress will improve your sleep if you ultimately, your website does not prove that you don't know what bad sleep is? So I think it's, the way that I talk about it with clients is, I really like the idea of looking at the language and lexis that is used across the commercial side of a site and trying to pull out nouns and adjectives and thinking about, do we cover these in more detail elsewhere? That's a very search ploy. That's like quite analytical and machine based, but map that back to users and you ultimately start to answer all of those questions, and you even start to answer questions that they didn't even know that they had. And even from the kind of more awareness side of things, we would ultimately look at how to improve sleep, and then we would look at a mattress buying guide, and then we would look at the kind of category product. And I think ultimately it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I suppose. It's a pyramid. At the very top of the website, you've got these products that are on sale, but underneath it, you really need to kind of build that groundwork, I suppose. And I think if you can cover awareness and you can cover product specific questions and category specific questions, you're in a really good place. Then you've got a solid website, and ultimately you're serving users